Before we begin, I want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land I'm recording on today, the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to elders past and present and to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. This land holds generations of storytelling, culture and connection, and I honour the stories that have shaped this country and continue to live on. Always was, always will be, Aboriginal land.
Pushing yourself can be joyful.
Absolutely.
Like, it feels really badass and really powerful to do things that are challenging and to push yourself a little bit further. And that is not a punishment. That's actually a joy.
This is Shaunanigans.
Welcome back to another episode of Shaunanigans. I am joined by my friend Kat.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks
it is
for
so
being
nice
here.
to be here.
I'm so excited. So for context, I met Kat, what was it, probably a year ago?
Yeah, maybe even a bit more. A little bit, yeah.
A little bit more.
Anyway, yes.
Yeah, so Kat is the delightful, energetic, spiritual, physical owner, caretaker, mother of Good Times Pilates.
Mother.
Of Good Times Pilates. You have 3 studios in Melbourne. And when I moved to Melbourne, I don't know if I told you this, but when I moved to Melbourne, I was doing research because I love Pilates. I fell in love with Pilates when I lived in Hollywood. And when I moved to Melbourne, I was like, must find a great studio. And I found yours and I loved it. And I lived way too far. I lived in St Kilda and I didn't have a car. And I was like, I can't get out there. But I followed you because I was like, one day I'm going to go there. And then you guys invited me to come and be an ambassador. And I just
was meant to be.
It was meant to be. We manifested that. Kat, tell me about how you got to be the mother of Good Times Pilates.
The mother. Well, where to start the story? I think it starts when I did my first Pilates class at 27 years old. I had just moved back from Sydney trying to make it work in the fashion industry, and it was a bit of an epic fail, but also a good learning experience. Anyway, moved home, moved back in with my parents.
Love that.
Girlfriends of mine were like, come and do a Pilates class with us. I was like, I am not. Okay, so for further backstory, I'm the kind of person who, when PE was on during class, I would go to sick bay and nap.
I pretended to have my period.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yep. I was like never into like group sports make me feel physically ill. Not so much now. Anyway, I was not into fitness. I didn't prioritize well-being at all. I was very much a party gal, social being. Wellness was not on the cards, not on the radar. Anyway, they made me come to this class and I was like, oh, fine. But I did it with 2 other friends, so it was a social thing. You know, we probably went to like a pub afterwards. I can't remember that bit.
Yeah.
But I finished the class and I was like, oh my God, exercise is fun. And I had this like major epiphany after this one class going, holy shit, this is really cool and fun. And I became totally obsessed, went to a class almost every day and had very much a transformational experience, mind, body, spirit. You know, for the first time in my life, I felt the benefits of like a regular routine. Like I had never gotten up at 5 a.m. before in my life, maybe to catch a plane.
Same.
But like getting up at 5 a.m. to work out, it was like unheard of for me. But I really made it a priority and it didn't even feel like I had to put in too much effort. It just came. I just loved it. I found this thing and I was obsessed. So I did Pilates for nearly every day for a year. And then after that, I was like, I think I want to be a teacher. I started studying Pilates. I'd like set up my job before I'd even finished my certificate. I was teaching like 30 classes a week sometimes, most of the time, which is a lot.
How does that?
It's a lot.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. I worked at lots of different studios. I worked at franchises. I worked at boutique studios. I did everything I could to become like the best teacher I could and learn about how businesses run. And then after about 3 years, my dad was the one who came up to me and was like, so what are you doing with this Pilates teaching thing? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, what about you start your own business? And I was like, I hadn't even thought about it yet, you know. So I spent like a year on my business plan because I'm a perfectionist. So at the time, this was 7 years ago, Pilates was like gaining momentum, and well-being was definitely gaining momentum. It's very different landscape to what it is now, but I wanted a space that was like just relaxed, just chill, and felt like you were being taught by your friend, not like it was this like, I'm the teacher and you're going to do as I say and like, let's push, go, 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 like let's sculpt those asses. Like that was not my vibe because I hadn't had a lot of experience within the fitness industry before once I got into it, and I was like, this is shit. This is a bit naff. It's not even naff. It was like, this is actually problematic, you know?
That part.
Yeah. And it's just like, there were so many people, so many businesses that were doing it that was like the same. It was all the same. And it was all black and it was all very like, it's all very masculine.
And also elite vibes.
Totally. Like, you got to wear your Lululemons and you got to fit into, you know, be straight sized and then you can join the classes. And
Yeah, I was
like
going to say, someone who can't wear Lululemons because my ass is too big, I'd be disqualified.
Yeah, you're out. Not really. But yeah, it was a very different landscape. And so I wanted to create something that, number one, just felt like relaxed and wasn't like a stage and wasn't this whole thing that was put on, and it was just very welcoming and laid back. Number two, that actually looks really cute, like aesthetics, and I call it environmental harmony. I wanted somewhere that was fun. I wanted somewhere where everybody could feel welcome, because it just felt like there were so many people that were being excluded from these spaces, and I didn't understand it because I hadn't experienced it for very long. I kind of came in and I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. And yeah, so created Good Times, and the rest is history.
So essentially you have created a really beautiful space that is inclusive. You saw a problem in the industry. I feel also, and a lot of plus size people, and this isn't going to be a conversation necessarily about like plus size versus straight size, but to your point, like it's also a great business move to create something that's inclusive, because plus size people have money to spend. And like
Right?
we want to spend our money. So if you invite us, we will come and we will pay. In a bit, we're going to talk about relationships with movement. I know the first time that you and we had a private lesson when I first started, and I think we spent 2 hours talking and
Just
30 minutes on the reformer bed. But in the spirit of yapping, I wanted to do a rapid fire question just about like your workout styles, everything to do with movement.
Okay.
So first one, go-to workout song.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I should have briefed you.
Oh,
but
God. Anything like Groove Armada.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm going through this real, like, are we calling it retro? Like, that's so
We
not
can call it
retro.
retro.
But, like, I'm going through a stage of music that I used to love when I was partying, but now listening to the music when I'm working out. And I'm like, yeah, like singing along, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Getting me in the mood.
I will always go back to Beyonce's Coachella set, like that whole album.
Wow.
The whole Coachella
Yeah,
album,
yeah,
the live
yeah.
album. That summer for me was
Amazing.
life. That's actually when I discovered Pilates. So I always go back to it.
There you go.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
do I try and align my lessons with teachers that are going to play Beyonce? Yes. I'm looking at you, Sharon. Okay, weirdest outfit you've ever worn to a workout. And the reason I say that is because I have a story, because I came from somewhere else to do a workout. So have you got a story about, like, did you wear something unconventional because you didn't plan on doing a workout?
I can't remember. Probably. I also have a very bad memory, so I'm terrible at stuff like this. But I'm going to tell you a story about when one of our teachers, we were doing a workshop, one of our teachers didn't bring her leggings, so she did the whole workshop in her jeans, and we were doing like the craziest Pilates moves, and we're filming, you know, just to get some content for the workshop, and Katie's like doing these wild things in her jeans. Anyway.
I did a class in skinny pleather jeans. Because pleather.
So hold on, did you stick to the carriage? Where were you?
No, I didn't actually. So what happened was, so I was doing privates at the time, and my teacher messaged me. She's like, "Are we still on for tomorrow?" I was like, "Actually, I have a brunch date." So I went on this date, and it was such a bad date. It was like I had cut out like 3 hours for it, and I was done in an hour. I'm like, I'm gonna eat and run.
When you know, you know.
So exactly, and so I ended up messaging my teacher, and she didn't reply. So I went straight to the studio, and I was so stressed about how bad the date was. I was like, I need to be on this bed, and we did a full workout in my skinny pleathers.
Hilarious.
It was hot. It was not conventional.
Does it stretch?
They were stretchy.
Okay.
They were a little bit stretchy. But I did a lot of legs in straps.
Even that would be hard.
It was.
There's nothing that would be easy.
Yeah,
with
and then
pleather.
also, is it a guillotine?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that. I did that in them. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's just a wild move.
Honestly. Do you have a mantra or an affirmation that you tell yourself when you are working out?
I think it's like, no, not particularly. I think it changes. Like, we can do hard things. I'm also like the biggest little... I would only talk about myself this way. I'm the biggest little bitch. And I just like, anything gets too hard, I'm like, oh, it's so hard. And I will legitimately whinge during class and be like, fuck, are you serious? Or I'm like, honestly, I've started yelling out to teachers, are you having a laugh? Like...
So that's your mantra. Are you
My
having a
mantra
laugh?
is just like, just try to make things silly and like actually make it fun for everybody. But also like, I can do hard things. And I'm like, I'm in the zone.
Yeah. Mine is how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Oh, I love that one. I say that all the time
Yeah.
too. But that's more of a business one for me, not...
Yeah. If you could rename any Pilates move to make it sound fun, what would it be? Mine, like, you know, when you're in legs and straps, and for those of you playing along at home and you haven't done reformer Pilates, let me just break it down for you. A reformer is... Actually, you should. You're the teacher. What's a reformer bed?
A reformer is a machine that Joe Pilates created in like the early 19th century, and it's got lots of springs. So it's basically, there's like a bed, it's called a carriage, but there's a comfy bed, and there's a foot bar at the end. You can lie down. There's springs underneath. It's kind of hard to like describe.
That's fair.
Anyway, you can do 1,000,001 different things because you're using the weight of the springs to like resistance to push against and resist.
Yeah, so when you lay on your back and you put your legs in the straps, so your legs are attached to these.
There's also like straps that pull on the springs.
Yeah.
It's very hard to describe.
Anyway, Google it, guys, honestly. But my favourite thing is just when you first put your legs in straps and you just do the first stretch. I would call that the sexy slidey nap time.
Ooh, sexy slidey nap time. Yes,
Yeah.
I like that
So
one.
what would your submission be?
Okay, I feel like long stretch is an exercise that we do all the time, and it's basically a plank. So your hands are on the foot bar, your feet are against the shoulder pads, and then you stretch the springs open and close. But long stretch is very deceiving. It's not a stretch. Well, like not really, not a stretch in the conventional way that we think of a stretch. And the long bit, I'm like, well, I guess long because you push far away, but it's a bit of a shit boring name. So I would call that like badass planky vibes or something.
Nice.
Yeah, because I feel like you do feel really badass when you do it. Even if it's on a heavy spring or a light spring, it's like, I feel powerful.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. If your workout was a movie genre, like what would it be? Slow burn, indie, horror, thriller, mystery, rom-com?
Rom-com, definitely.
Same. There's a lot of laughing.
Yeah.
There's some crying.
Yeah. And it's like a little bit silly. Like nobody takes themselves seriously. Yeah. Definitely.
Do you think that Pilates is for everybody?
Well, not really, because it's kind of price exclusive. Like the cost is not for everybody. It does cost a lot of money. The machines that we have are about $9,000, which is a lot of money. To become a teacher, it costs a lot of money and time and effort, and to be a great teacher also costs a lot. Renting a space, like you can definitely do mat Pilates. Like reformer is a bit different, I would guess. Mat Pilates, you can do mat Pilates at home. All you need is a floor, and there's heaps of great YouTube things. So in that respect, it can be. But then if you want a little bit more attention or you have any kind of special considerations, you might need a little bit more guidance than just being able to do like a regular class, especially because you're on the floor. Like even being on the floor, like that isn't available to everybody, you know? So when I think about like every single person, I'm like, oh, I think of, you know, friends, a friend of mine who is in a wheelchair, and I'm like, well, it would be really hard for him to do a lot of the stuff. There's stuff that he could do, definitely, but even just like getting up onto the machine or like getting into the studio, it's like there's limitations for everybody, but making things as inclusive as you possibly can is everything I think about. Yeah. So it's making spaces as inclusive as you can while knowing that there are limitations. So that's why I don't say that Good Times is for everybody. It's for like as many people as we possibly can, you know, because if I say it's for everybody and then, you know, my friend in the wheelchair pops up and he's like, well, actually, it's not for everybody. Or your classes aren't specifically, you know, and I was like, well, yeah, actually, that's totally fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So making it as accessible and as inclusive as you can, you know.
And what are some of the ways that you make it as accessible and inclusive?
Okay. So we do things like having lighting on the ceiling that shoots up. So with Pilates, a lot of the time you're lying on your back. So we have a lot of neurodivergent clients. So having light shining down into their eyes can often just trigger people, make them feel like, not comfortable. So the lighting was a very big thing for us. Even the colour palettes and the sounds of spaces. Like at Northcote, we used to have concrete flooring and it was just a little bit echoey. So we put in cork flooring to make things less echoey. Music just being easy to hear and like surrounding music, not music that's coming from one space too loud. A lot to do with the language that we use. So language and communication is really important. We use really simple, where we can, as simple as we can in terms of cues. We don't make any assumptions. So there's no assumptions of gender, of ability, of age, of like, you know, what you, especially ability. I think that's a really big one. We use external cues as much as we can. So that's like saying things like reach your hand to the camera, you know, things like that, rather than talking to muscles and like there doesn't need to be any pre-knowledge before you get to class, you know. So there's no assumption that somebody knows what your bicep is. Like we might say bicep, but we also might then be like, it's this bit, you know.
Yeah.
Things like that.
You've kind of redesigned things in order to make sure that it's not just an invitation, but it's when someone comes, they are able to be comfortable. It's less about who shows up and more about who stays. And I think you've done a really beautiful job of making the space safe for all kinds of people. I think particularly as someone who is in a plus size body, who has been in a plus size body my whole life, I got into Pilates 6 or 7 years ago. Started out doing privates and then semi-privates. Like my friend was having private and then I just was on the bed next to her and I was tagging along. Fell in love with it, became very strong, and then, you know, COVID happened and I didn't. And also I hate mat Pilates, like with a burning passion. The thing with reformer is that I feel like I'm not really making an effort. I am, obviously. But yeah, it's just, it's delightful. But that's one of the things that I was drawn to about your space was that it wasn't pretentious, it wasn't exclusive, because there's nothing worse. And this isn't exclusive to someone in a plus size body. And it's not exclusive to Pilates, but I think a lot of studios, particularly today, when they're trying to nail the aesthetic, the beautiful Instagrammable space, which does happen in yoga and Pilates studios, the price can make it inaccessible for a lot of people.
Yes.
The aesthetics can make it feel exclusive. And then when you don't have people who are representative of society.
That was the next thing I was going to talk about.
You have a diverse group of teachers. Like you
Totally.
have all
and that
bodies.
is something that I'm thinking about constantly. You know, I'm like looking out for more, especially Pilates teaching is very female dominated. So I'm always trying to find, you know, the next male teacher, the next like non-binary teacher, like
Yeah.
please come and join us. Like we want our team to be diverse because our community is really diverse. So having, and even when we do our marketing, like I try as much as I can. I am the first person to admit that I don't get everything right and I'm not perfect, and I'm always trying and willing to do better. But so that's just like caveat for everything. But yeah, and in our marketing we have, older ages, larger bodies, different genders. Like we try and mix it up as much as we can, because that is the people that come to our studios. It's a diverse mix of people. So yeah, we try to represent those. The straight-sized white woman is overrepresented in the Pilates sphere. So
Yeah.
I think we can just move on from that a little bit.
Honestly. But yeah, I think that's one of the great things as well is being able to see somebody like myself in the marketing, but also
Literally herself. She's in a bit of our marketing too.
plugging. But also, yeah, like I was very, very fortunate when I came back from LA, and I had worked with a teacher for like 4 to 6 months. I had the confidence to walk into a Pilates studio because I had been on a bed. I knew what I was doing. I had done advanced Pilates. I knew that I didn't need any assistance from a teacher. And I think that was the biggest barrier for me previously. When I would look at Pilates studios, I would walk past and there'd be a class that I would see while I'm, looking through the window. And yeah, it would be often a beautiful woman with abs and her midriff out. And I wouldn't see many people that looked like me. And it just didn't feel like somebody like me in my body would be welcome, that I'd be too much of a beginner. Maybe I would break the reformer bed. There were so many barriers. So the confidence I had after having the experience I had, that was such a privilege. And then I just tried to get as many of my friends as possible who are like, and people in all body types were like, oh no, Pilates isn't for me. Like it's only for the really, like the Lululemon girls. I was like, I am not her. And I love Pilates. So I think that's something that has been done really well. And I hope we see more, not from a copy standpoint, because we don't
I don't
want you to
think
keep having to
inclusion
work.
is like a trend. Like I don't
Also
think,
that.
Inclusion is just like, it's a part of, it's things we can add into our daily lives. It's like, it's things, inclusion to me is also just like smiling at the person walking down the street that you like, that is being
you
a
can sit with us.
community, right? Like it's bringing joy to everybody's lives and making them feel valued and important and seen. And that, it's like, if they're the things that you think about all the time, then how you do one thing is how you do everything. So yeah, it's stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the more representation in the fitness industry, the Pilates industry, like the better.
You've created a really inclusive space, but it can potentially be exclusive, particularly around the finances. That's why I don't do Pilates as often, just because it is expensive. But I still desire to move my body. I still struggle a lot. My wilting peace lily leaves of my life every day when I get to the end of the day, and I've been working for 8 hours. I'm like, there's nothing left. Go for a walk, Shauna. I don't want to. I went for a walk a couple of days ago. That's how long it's been. I went for a walk a couple of days ago, and I did like 6 laps of the oval near me, and I was like, this was easy, Shauna. It doesn't have to be that hard. And I think for me, such a big breakthrough that I had a few years ago, which hasn't fully translated in the action, but I stopped using movement and exercise as a form of punishment. And I think there are levels to it. I think there's nothing wrong with a bit of intensity. There's nothing wrong with challenging yourself.
Yep.
But I think a lot of people still, and this is like some of the work that I try and do, and I think some of the work that you guys do as well, is really try and reframe everybody's minds and say, like, you're not supposed to be punishing yourself. It is a privilege. It is an act of self-love. So
Exactly.
How do you instill that? Like, can you talk to that?
Okay. So growing up, like so I was born in 86. So I grew up in like the heroin chic kind of era. I grew up like I was, around the Ashy Bines fitness bikini body stuff, like that was my experience of fitness in my periphery, because I didn't really engage with a lot of it. But it was, you know, even things like, I know this sounds horrible, but my mum isn't really like this. That's why I'm saying it sounds horrible. But, you know, I remember when I was like 21 or something, walking around the street in shorts, and my mum was like, oh, I think you should maybe try some more exercise. Like the back of your legs are looking really something. And I was like, Mum, like, you know, she would never say that now. This was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff that was just so natural. Like that's how everybody spoke, and bodies were a commodity, and bodies were like this thing that always needed to shrink and be smaller. And like, I mean, there's probably a lot we can talk about with that whole, like that thing coming back into fashion again and the bloody GLP one. Anyway. So because I hadn't had a lot of like history in the fitness industry, I kind of came at it from like, oh, this is really fun. Oh, and like the byproducts are that you know, have more energy, that you feel fit, you feel able to like move around. Like I had never felt muscles on my body before, you know, it was just a different feeling. I'd never felt like, and it's more the internal feeling of like feeling strong. I'd never felt that before. And so for me, that was really empowering and really cool. But at that time, I also did lose a bit of weight and was able to, you know, I went down a size in clothes, and I had to kind of reconcile that, because I felt like I got more accolades from people. I felt more comfortable and confident, and it wasn't just because of this weight or the size, but I had to really like flip it and go, actually, I feel this way because I'm moving more, not because of the changes in my body or like whatever had happened. And I did a lot of work on that, and it's like you have to keep kind of constantly going, okay. And then especially kind of, we're going off on a tangent, but especially after having a baby, while I was growing him, I was like, my body is a vessel, blah, 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 blah. Like I felt like this was just something I had to get through. And then afterwards, you legitimately have to just resign to having whatever body exists after that. And I couldn't focus on my body. And so I had to really just go, I am here, I am happy. What I look like and my size is not what makes me a valuable and important and vibrant human being.
I've spent so much time trying to figure out where I sit in the like swirly pot of thoughts around like exercise and weight loss, because you know, I grew up, I'm only a few years younger than you, and I grew up with a very similar experience in terms of like worldviews and, you know, family members who had a lot to say. And, you know, as someone who's like, oh, yeah, body positive. And then I was too positive and I let myself gain 30 kilos and was like, wait a minute. That's not to shame weight gain. But for me, I'm like, no, you actually desire to run and jump and dance and have stamina.
Yes.
So it's taken a long time for me to figure out where I've landed in that conversation. But for me, first of all, if exercise does not bring you joy, pick another workout. Like find something that brings joy.
And pushing yourself can be joyful.
Absolutely.
Like it feels really badass and really powerful to do things that are challenging and to push yourself a little bit further. And that is not a punishment, that's actually a joy. And so it's just kind of flipping it and going like, I'm not going to push myself because I'm a piece of shit. It's like, I'm going to push myself because I feel really empowered when I do something hard.
Yeah, when movement in particular is, and that's another thing I've started to, and I don't know if this is good, bad, or otherwise, but I've started to use the word movement instead of exercise, just personally, because when I think of exercise, it is associated with you ate this, you have to do this, you did this, you have to do this. So
and calorie counting and like all that
vocabulary is really important.
Yes.
And again, like not to poo-poo on calorie counting, because it can be really helpful for some people.
Totally.
But it's the why behind it.
Yes.
Like, are you hating yourself into a lifestyle? that is unhealthy and is not rooted in joy and self-love.
And it's the shit that goes around in your head as well. Like you're just trying to flip it and change it and turn it into something that's more positive. Like the benefits of exercise goes so far. I mean, not that losing weight is a benefit, but like the other things, the other byproducts of moving more are so much like you legitimately live longer if you move your body more.
Yeah.
You know, and you get better sleep and you feel more alive.
Mm-hmm. And even the way that your body responds to like working out in the moment, I've noticed, because I used to do CrossFit. I say that very loosely. My best friend at college did CrossFit, and
Shauna watched. No.
With my popcorn on the side. No, she would go to CrossFit classes and then she would replicate them at the gym for both of us. So I did like off-Broadway
Off-Broadway CrossFit workouts.
But I remember I did it because I literally would eat lettuce all day and then I would go to the gym and I would do these CrossFit workouts. And I remember how it felt in my body to breathe, for example. Whereas now, if I raise my heart rate because I go on a power walk or if I do some like kind of cardio Pilates or something like that, the way that I breathe feels different in my body, and it is rooted in love and that the connection that you get with your body.
That's
I think
so true. It's like your spirit knows when you're actually damaging yourself or when you're giving yourself love.
Yeah, because
it sounds really woo-woo and I'm not woo-woo.
No, but I am. And I'm like, let me take that and run. Not run. Let me take that and power walk. Because the thing is, if doing a really high intensity workout, these workouts that, you know, a lot of people punish themselves with, physically it is going to be quote unquote good for your body. But what is it doing to you psychologically? What is it doing to your heart? Like your if you're being mean to yourself, your body is going to know that.
And what are the things that you're saying internally while you're doing them and before you're doing them? If you're restricting or your diet to punish yourself, if you're exercising to punish yourself, if you're trying to do anything to like shrink who you are rather than elevate who you are, then it's not going to end well for your mental health, you know?
Yeah. And I love what you said about shrinking who you are. It's not the body, it's your spirit. Yeah. If you're trying to shrink your physical body because you hate the way that you look, that's going to negatively affect your spirit. Yeah. And people like to try and rebrand that. I have pretty much muted or unfollowed every account that does a lot of that. Just work harder. And that might work for some people, but again, what is your reason? Is it because you want to change who you are because you don't like yourself?
Yeah. Or because you want to fit in more? Like, I guess this is that big chat about, do you know, I'm pretty sure in America at F45 you can now be prescribed GLP-1s. Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
Isn't that so wild?
Wow.
I don't mean to poo-poo on F45. That sounds terrible, but I'm pretty sure this is a thing. Their whole thing is like, you're not good enough as you are.
Ooh.
Right? Like that's all that says to me is you're not fit enough, you're not small enough, you're not muscly enough, you're not enough.
And that was pretty much all of the 90s and 2000s pop culture, fitness.
Yeah.
And so the work that you do, how you show up in the world as a human, how I try and show up in the world as a human, to lead with love. And it does sound so woo-woo, but I mean, there are some people who would probably say to their best friend, you need to go for a walk, you're fat. I don't know those people. I've never like
those people can get in the bin.
Exactly. But like when you really think about it, you wouldn't talk to your best friend the way that you talk to yourself in relation to anything, but particularly in relation to working out and fitness. There's a huge difference between discipline and self-deprecation. Yeah. You can motivate yourself to do things without being mean, without punishing yourself, and without telling yourself that you are not worthy unless ...
Having goals is great. Like having goals is really cool, and goals that allow this freedom around exercise. That's like, I just want to, my goal is to work out or do whatever workout or move my body 3 times a week, you know? Yeah. My goal is to hold a plank for a minute. Yeah. Like those kind of goals are really cool. But yeah, goals that are positive.
Yeah, exactly. I want to finish off with one question.
Okay.
If you could, and when I was writing this question, I laughed because it could be creepy. The question is, if you could whisper one thing into the ear of someone who was coming to their first class, what would it be?
You're welcome here. Or like, yeah, you're already... I consider anybody who's ever joined us to be part of our community. It's like, yeah, you are already part of this thing. Like thank you for, not thank you. That's feels like it's coming from me. It's like I'm trying to say thank you from their point of view, you know, like thank yourself for being here. Yeah. But just I think it would be something about being welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're seen. That. Yeah. Use their name. That's a very important inclusion thing too. Using people's names.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming and sitting on the couch with me. Yeah, you've created such a beautiful space, but
thank you.
More than that, the way that you show up to life is really impactful, and whether or not you're able to change the way someone thinks entirely or just plant a seed, it's powerful and it's making a change. And I really hope that people who've tuned in today have been able to get something out of it, whether it's, you know, oh, I want to visit the studio when I come to Melbourne, or more importantly, I am going to treat myself with some more kindness because I deserve it. And exercise shouldn't be a punishment.
Exactly. And yes, the goal is not to have everybody come, but also you're very welcome. Please come. I guess my thing that I would really love everybody to take away is moving your body for joy, and whatever that means to you. Like, yes, I found Pilates. I love Pilates. Whatever you want to do, and you will legitimately live longer and be a nicer human. And like, yeah, moving for joy and without fear.
Yeah.
That would be my hope for the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that.
Mm.
Nailed it. Yay. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Shaunanigans. If you like what you heard, make sure to hit follow wherever you're listening or watching, leave me a comment, and come hang out with me on socials at shaunanigans.pod on Instagram. Until next time, be kind to yourself, drink your water, romanticize your life, and if all else fails, nap it out and try again tomorrow. Bye.